In this edition of Locked On Capitals, it is the player and review of Anthony Mantha. And then we talk about Martin Fehervary and how one of his last practices didn't quite go as planned. We'll talk about all of that and more next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. Yes, this podcast is also available in video form, so head on over to YouTube and check it out. And when you're on YouTube, make sure and hit that subscribe button. And if you like the videos, give it a thumbs up. It really helps grow the channel. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. So in this edition, that is what we're going to talk about. We are going to do a player profile of Anthony Mantha. But to start it off here, we're going to talk about Martin Fehervary and how things didn't quite go as planned in one of his last workouts before departing for DC. In this on Saturday, they were saying that we are less than 2 weeks away from the start of training camp for the Washington Capitals, as many of the roster players and prospects have already made their way back to the district. Capitals defenseman Martin Fehervary has yet to travel to Washington, but will return to DC in the next few days. Fehervary won a final workout in his hometown in Slovakia on Saturday morning. Unfortunately, during the workout, Fehervary encountered an unexpected reworking of his dental profile after he took a stick to the face. Ouch. And if you take a look online, it does look pretty bad. He has a chipped tooth in front. I think he's kind of going a little bit for the Alex Ovechkin look. Fehervary shared a photo of his new smile on his Instagram account. So if you have Instagram, check it out. Why not do one last training session before leaving, wrote Fehervary. It appears the stick chipped two of his front teeth and drew a little blood in the process. Fortunately, Fehervary reports he is doing well, thanking a local dentist for fixing him up. A following post on Instagram on Saturday showed that his teeth look A-okay. So that is good news because he is a young guy, and I mean, you don't want to be walking around with chipped teeth if you can afford not to. Fortunately, the guys took care of me, and I thank them very much for their great attitude and work, wrote Fehervary. Having followed Fehervary since his draft day in 2018, there is one thing I can say for certain about his character. He is tough as nails and one tough customer, and if you're a fan of the Capitals, you know that. And Martin Fehervary brings a lot to the game. He brings that physical aspect, but he also can move the puck pretty well as well. So, he's not just a stay-at-home defenseman. He has kind of a two-way game. Capitals training camp is set to begin on Thursday, September 22nd. The Capitals' first two preseason games is 2 weeks from Sunday when they visit the Sabres in Buffalo on September 25th. And wow, isn't the time going by so fast? I mean, it just seems like not that long ago that they were wrapping up the season, and now we're already talking about training camp. We're already talking about next season, but I am excited about it. I'm excited to see how these new players fit into the schemes. How is Darcy Kemper going to fit in there? How is Charlie Lindgren going to work as his backup? And what is going to be kind of the split there? Of course, I know that Darcy will get the lion's share of the starts, but it's going to be an interesting thing for Darcy Kemper because this is kind of one of his first opportunities to be the number one netminder that's going to get, potentially the most starts out there. So how is he going to handle that kind of workload? That remains to be seen. And then how is Charlie Lindgren, because, a bit of an unproven commodity out there, how is he going to fill in on the Capitals as a backup netminder? You're going to see Charlie out there. I expect, on some of the back to backs out there, and probably a little bit more than that as well. But I think that ultimately that's what you're going to see there. And then the other players that me personally that I'm looking forward to seeing is how is Dylan Strome going to fill in on that second line center? That's where we have him penciled in. If you take a look at Nick Backstrom, he had that hip resurfacing procedure done, so he is going to miss a good chunk of this season, if not the entire season. Is Dylan Strome going to be up for the task of filling Nick Backstrom's shoes? Those are some huge shoes to fill. So I hope that he's up for it. And, say for some reason that Nick Backstrom does come back sooner than we expected. The good thing about Dylan Strome is that he can also play on wing. So, obviously there's going to be some injury throughout the season. There's probably going to be a bit of some sketchy play out there. So, Dylan's going to be able to find a spot somewhere on this team that goes along with Connor Brown as well. Connor Brown was one of the guys that was picked up to fill in for Tom Wilson in his absence. Kind of not exactly the same type of player. Tom Wilson has more of a physical game, and he's kind of brings that snarl, but he also has a good goal scoring touch. So it's going to be interesting to see how these players fit in. I know how we have them penciled in, but how are they actually going to fit in actuality? That remains to be seen. But we are coming up on the start of training camps and the season starting next month. It's going to be interesting to see how they fit in. I'm also looking forward to seeing some of these younger players that aren't, they're not going to just lay over and play dead. They want some of those jobs as well. And what players am I talking about? I am talking about players like Connor McMichael. Connor McMichael was on the Capitals roster last year, but saw some kind of limited duty. And I think that he is going to want to challenge, some of these players for their jobs. Lars Eller was kind of, had one foot out the door before Nick Backstrom had that injury. You got to think that someone like Connor McMichael is going to be fighting for playing time because he doesn't want to spend another season, as a healthy scratch up in the press box. He wants to be out on the ice. So these guys out there, they're going to have to fight for their jobs. I know that Dylan Strome and Connor Brown, they're not going to be able to just to sit back. They're going to have to really work hard because there are going to be some young players that have been in this organization for a few years that are going to be challenging them for their jobs. Now, a little bit more of a, conspiracy theory, I guess you could say, would be in the net minding department. I know that they went out and they got Charlie Lindgren out there, and he is ostensibly going to be the backup. They're paying him over $1 million. I sure hope he is. But I think it's going to be kind of a similar situation there. Is there going to be some outlier? Is there going to be someone that's going to come in and surprise people? I've kind of talked about Zach Fucale, and some people kind of give me some grief, like, what's your deal with Zach Fucale anyway? You got to think that someone like Zach is also going to be fighting to make a name for himself. Now, I'm not going to say that he is going to outdo Charlie Lindgren, but what I'm going to say is he is going to try to put his best foot forward, and he is going to try to make a solid impression on the Capitals coaching staff. So, for say some reason, one of the netminders kind of falters a little bit. That's one of the things I talked about in a previous podcast. Is Darcy Kemper is an excellent goalie, but he is prone to the injury bug. So someone like Zach has to be on his toes, ready to go in a moment, where one of these guys gets injured or say they have inconsistent play. The number 3 netminder, and I'm going to say that Zach Fucale is the number 3 netminder in the Washington Capitals organization, has got to be ready. And, it is going to be interesting to see, how this all gels together, and I'll have you covered on Locked On Capitals all season long. All right, so after the break here, we are going to talk about the player profile of Anthony Mantha, but first, our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted more energy and I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I wanted to see what the hype was about. Now I've been on it for a few months and it doesn't taste like super healthy. It has kind of a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to taking each morning. So, what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help your day start right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all these things. Now, I use it personally because I have young children at home, and if you're a parent out there, you know why you need that extra boost of energy. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything. While still tasting good, it supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best on latest third-party iterations. Importance of a multivitamin is that tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's the one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. Your subscription comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is so important. It costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all these supplements separately. So, to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up on the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, welcome back to this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. In this episode, we are going to talk about Anthony Mantha and kind of his story and where does he fit in. You know, he is a guy that has kind of had to rise to the surface and kind of prove himself. Anthony Mantha is not intrinsically a tough guy. That's not in his nature. He's got a big frame and a big body, but he's not a Tom Wilson type. He's not the kind of guy that wants to mix it up. But what did we notice in Anthony Mantha last year? The pressure was on him to use that big frame and to use it to his advantage. You started to see that a little bit later in the season, especially in the first round playoff series against the Florida Panthers, where I think it was kind of told to him, like, hey, you got that body, you got that frame, put it to use. Tom Wilson is not out there. We need you to step up and bring your physical game. And I think that he did that. And there's a story here. They were talking about this in NovaCaps. They were saying it's getting to be that time of year. Capitals players are beginning to wrap up their vacations and off-season commitments and begin to set their sights on returning to DC. And they've already done that. A lot of players are already in DC, and that's an encouraging sign for these guys to kind of get together and get on the same page. Capitals left winger Anthony Mantha made one of his final off-season public appearances at the golf tournament at the Golf Le Mirage in Quebec, Canada on Tuesday. Mantha spends a significant part of the offseason in Montreal. Mantha held a brief media availability as part of his event. He was asked about the injuries and the projected lengthy absences of Backstrom and Wilson. Backstrom's underwent hip surgery in June and is expected to be out most, if not all, of the regular season. Kind of what I talked about there. Wilson underwent knee surgery in May and is expected to be out 6 to 8 months. And the book, or what they're talking about on Wilson, is that he should be back around Christmas time. But with the season starting in October, that is a pretty good chunk of time for this Capitals team to be without one of their top 3 goal scorers and one of their top guys that likes to throw down. You know, he leads the team in PIM minutes. So I think that, having him out there not having him out there is going to be a big deal. That's why we need guys like Connor Brown and Dylan Strome to step up. I'm going to have to step up for sure, Mantha said. Backstrom, Wilson, we will miss them. At the beginning of the year, I have a more important role, and I will have to use this for my team. I wish myself 82 games this year to have the firepower necessary to help the team. And what is the one thing that we know about Mantha is that he had that shoulder issue where he had to have a surgery on it. So when he first came back, he was firing on all cylinders we have to hope that Mantha stays healthy. At least, the beginning chunk of the season while Tom Wilson is out. I mean, I would love to have Anthony on this lineup the entire season, but we definitely need his size and his frame, at least through the first several months for sure. Mantha dealt with his own long-term injury last season, missing most of the regular season after undergoing shoulder surgery last fall. He would rehab in time to make the end of the regular season and all of the Capitals' postseason, but the return was challenging for Mantha. The return was good, he said. I was mentally difficult for 4 months. Playing before the summer did good mentally, confessed Mantha. During the offseason, the Capitals made wholesale changes in the front of the net. Mantha said he and his teammates were taken by surprise by the departure of Vanacek and Samsonov. And I really, were they really surprised given the outcome of how the team went and, how the team played? I just think that was the right thing to say. We were surprised, not in shock, surprised by two changes rather than one. It's only positive. We acquired a goalkeeper who won the Stanley Cup last year. It's a lot of experience. It is confidence that he will bring in the net. At 27, Mantha is aware that he can offer some of his experience to a promising young hopeful like Hendrix Lapierre, who will try to establish himself with the Capitals. Mantha admitted that Luke Glendening played a mentoring role when he joined the NHL. He's a very fast guy, said Mantha on Lapierre. If Backstrom can't start the year, which we know that he can, it creates a hole in center. It is up to Hendricks to take the chance and prove that he can fill a hole in the team. And, I would be most surprised if Hendricks makes the big team. I guess anything is possible. Like I've said before, I consider him one of the crown jewels, if not the biggest player in the Washington Capitals pipeline. I think that he's in a good position to do really well this next season, if not with the Capitals, with the Hershey Bears. The one thing I noticed, I was watching some of the footage from MedStar, and he definitely has bulked up some. One of the things that they're talking about with him is that, he was hitting the weights really hard. And kind of what I've heard is the training staff is talking about Hendricks and saying, pump the brakes a little bit. You don't want to get too jacked up here. That's not what you want. You want to have kind of like this fit, lean body, not like you're trying to go out there like you're, some kind of bodybuilder or something. The annual tournament also paid tribute to the late Guy Lafleur, who passed away this year. Many of Lafleur's teammates were on hand, including one former line mate, Steve Shute and Lemaire. So, I think that is important for Mantha to come back. And it's good that he has a good attitude about, the new netminders. And it's good that he can kind of serve to be a mentor for someone like Hendrix Lapierre. Like I said, I would be most surprised if he ends up making the Capitals team. I would. But, if someone like Anthony Mantha out there can kind of show him the ropes and say, hey, this is, from experience, I know this works and I know this doesn't work, then I think it can kind of help aid in his advancement into making it to the Washington Capitals team. Because we did see Hendricks in the beginning, or it was towards the beginning of last season, and he had flashes of greatness, but ultimately it was not a sustained goal scoring. He did get, I remember that one goal, I think it was, I want to say his first goal, and then TJ Oshie picked him up and was like, oh my God, you got a goal. It was just a really kind of special moment for the Capitals and Hendrix Lapierre, I imagine. So, but anyway, I think that the trajectory is good, and I think that someone like Anthony Mantha can play a big role in his development. All right, so after the break here, we're going to continue to talk about Anthony Mantha. What is his origin story? Where did he start? We'll talk about that next. All right, welcome back to this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. In this edition, we're talking about Anthony Mantha and what kind of role he plays on this team, kind of his profile and origin story. So kind of let's take a look back and kind of turn back the clock a little bit and see what is Anthony Mantha's scouting report. The two-time 50-goal scorer in junior hockey has not come near the level in the NHL despite having all the tools for his success. He is big and fast and has an excellent shot and displays supreme hand-eye coordination. Inconsistency and injuries have held him back, but he also needs to improve his play away from the puck in order to make the most of his offensive talents. And then they say long-range potential, big talented but inconsistent scoring winger. So, not a really glowing review of Anthony Mantha, but I don't put a ton of stock into these scouting reports because I've seen Anthony Mantha firsthand. I see what kind of skater he is. I see what he brings to this team. Is there room for improvement from Anthony? Of course. There's improvement in most any player out there. There's room for improvement with all of them, but I'm not dismissing Anthony Mantha as, kind of a guy that doesn't have any talent. So just kind of to take a look back on when Anthony came to this team. If you guys remember the trade, it was for Jakub Vrana or Jakub Vrana. On April 12th, 2021, Mantha was traded to the Washington Capitals in exchange for Jakub Vrana and Richard Panik, excuse me, that Ponic trade. That was kind of one of those ones. I'm like, why did they pick him up? I mean, I guess he kind of did an okay job with the Capitals, but ultimately I was not too impressed. A first round pick in 2021, the second round pick in 2022 on April 18th, 2021, Mantha became the first Washington Capital in history to score a goal in each of his first 4 games with the club. So kind of just record breaking to start off his tenure with the Washington Capitals. And it's one of those deals that I look back on and I say, it was a good deal. Jakub Vrana on this team, he was another one. I use this term a lot, but it's true. He had flashes of greatness. And who else can you put in that same breath? Burakovsky, who kind of just a change in zip code when he went out to Colorado, did a good job. And now let's see what he does in Seattle. But, I think at the end of the day, it was the right move for the Capitals. The Capitals tried to retread that tire with Jakub Vrana quite a few times, and he never just really performed at the level that they were looking for. He was a fast skater, if not the fastest skater on the team when he was on the roster. But Anthony Mantha has that good goal scoring touch. He can also skate well, and he's got that big frame. That is what's big in the NHL right now, is these fast skaters, and to have, a big frame out there, to kind of, grind someone into the corner. That's where Anthony Mantha comes in. And, if you take a look at it from Jakub Vrana's perspective, he is doing a great job in Detroit. So another one, a change of zip code, all of a sudden he's playing really, really well. So when you take a look at Anthony Mantha here, that is my projection for him. He can play. He's a versatile player. So say for some reason that, Connor Brown doesn't step up and he can't fill the role of Tom Wilson. Anthony Mantha has played over there before. Put him in there and see what kind of job he can do over there. Because, like I say, all these things are ostensible. What am I saying when I'm saying that? Probably, actually, but not, it might not actually be what happens. That's what it's forecasted to be, but we don't know exactly how this is all going to lay out. When you take a look at this lineup and you say, well, Connor Brown's going to fill in for Tom Wilson and Dylan Strome's going to fill in for Nick Backstrom. We don't know that for sure. A lot is going to shake out in these training camps and that kind of thing. And, it's going to be interesting to see who ends up landing where. There's a lot of things, that we're not anticipating. And if you're a fan of the NFL, same thing. You take a look at these teams and you think that they're stacked in this position, but guess what? An injury happens and that kind of just changes everything. And that could change everything for the Capitals as well. We don't know, and I don't want to, bring negativity into this, but we don't know what kind of injuries, could be laying in wait for the Washington Capitals. There could be someone that gets injured that you weren't expecting. That's going to change, the complexity of everything. So I hope that everything, kind of goes according to plan, but, just kind of keeping in the back of your mind, knowing that sometimes it doesn't go that way. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world. Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. So, once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, where it's your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.